Hi, now we're going to do some solving triangles by using the law of sines. The law of sines is, if triangle ABC has sides of length A, B, and C as shown, then the sine of A over A is equal to the sine of B over B, which is also equal to the sine of C over C. When they write this, an equivalent form is, all they're doing is the reciprocals of these. It doesn't matter which you use. This is a law of sines. This is also a law of sines. I do want you to notice that the triangle is not a right triangle. If we had a right triangle, we wouldn't use the law of sines. We would just use the ratios, that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. But if you don't have a right triangle, then possibly we can use the law of sines. Now, if you look at the triangle and you look at the law of sines, notice that I've got the sine A, capital A, that denotes an angle. So I have an angle and a side opposite, an angle and a side opposite, an angle and a side opposite. That's the only time I can ever use a law of sines, is if I do have an angle and then a side opposite. So here is a triangle. So I have an angle, a side, an angle, and a side, and I need to solve the triangle. So what I do have is I've got an angle and I've got a side opposite. So I'm going to be able to use a law of sines. Now when I solve the triangle, that means I need to find all the sides and I need to find all of the angles. So I'm going to start with what I know. Sine 14 over 7 is equal to, and I'm going to try to find this side here, and I'll label this. So sine A would be sine of 14 over 7 is equal to sine 150 over B. And I'm definitely going to use a calculator on this. So when I solve for B, I would do product of the means equals product of the extremes. So B is equal to sine 150 times 7 divided by sine 14. And just put this in your calculator, and what you're going to find is that B is approximately 14.5. What you do want to do on your calculator, though, is make sure that your mode is in degrees, because my triangle is in degrees. So always check for that. Is it in degrees or radians, and which one do you want? Now, to solve the triangle, I also need to find C, and I also need to find this angle. Now, the angle's easy, because you just take 180 minus 150 minus 14 would give me 16 degrees for C. Now, to find this length C, all I want to do is a law of sines again. So I'm going to say sine C, which is sine 16 degrees, over this C that I'm trying to find, this length, is equal to sine 14 over 7. Now I'm purposely using the sine 14 and the 7 because that was given in the problem. If I use the 150 and B as 14.5, this was a rounded value. So I'm going to get more accurate results if I use what was given to me, because those weren't rounded. So when I solve for C, I get C is about 8.0. And I'm solving for C just like I solved for B right here. I'll show you. I'm just taking 7 times the sine of 16, that's my extremes, is equal to C times the sine of 14, and then I'm dividing both sides by the sine of 14 to find C. Now on your calculator, make sure that you have your parentheses here. The calculator will give you this first parenthesis. Make sure you finish it off with the second one. And same thing with the 14 for when you're solving for C.